Netflix is currently developing a genuine rival to Game of Thrones, which will be the biggest release in the fantasy genre this decade if it comes off. Helmed by Stranger Things producer Shawn Levy, this prospective series will be the first live-action TV show in the history of an enormously popular franchise that's been running for 52 years. Since it was created back in 1974 by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, Dungeons & Dragons has become a key part of the fantasy genre's social fabric. Originally a tabletop role-playing game, the franchise has expanded to online gameplay in recent decades, while spawning seemingly endless spin-off media, from novels to movies and animated TV shows. The lack of a live-action D&D series feels like a massive gap in the broader canon of screen fantasy, which Netflix seems only too happy to fill. If the streaming giant succeeds with its adaptation of the legendary game, there's every chance that it produces one of the best fantasy shows of all time. Netflix's upcoming show is provisionally titled The Forgotten Realms, taking its name from the game's default campaign setting. Given the millions of D&D players who have used the setting, as well as the hundreds of Forgotten Realms books that have expanded its lore, making it the basis for the TV show feels like the logical move. Netflix's The Forgotten Realms has unlimited potential. Created by game designer Ed Greenwood as a child, and officially adopted by Dungeons & Dragons as its default game setting in the late 1980s, The Forgotten Realms is a sprawling fantasy universe populated by powerful deities, formidable wizards, magical cities and creatures such as elves and dwarves. It's given rise to over 300 novels, and dozens of game sourcebooks. The potential for a Netflix show about this universe is virtually limitless, and is guaranteed to attract a large and hugely dedicated fanbase. There have already been various TV shows and movies inspired by D&D, but a live-action series framed as one of Netflix's flagship fantasy releases is something else entirely. Although live-action Dungeons & Dragons movies haven't performed especially well at the box office, an episodic small-screen release entitled The Forgotten Realms is a very different proposition. The show is likely to have a similarly widespread appeal to Game of Thrones when it was first released on HBO, while drawing in hardcore D&D fans at the same time. It's worth noting that Dungeons & Dragons had an estimated 50 million fans around the world in 2024 according to Hasbro, the parent company of its publisher Wizards of the Coast. By comparison, at the time Game of Thrones debuted as a TV show, only 12 million people had read the books by George R.R. Martin. HBO's new Harry Potter series might be the most hyped fantasy release of the 2020s so far, but Netflix's The Forgotten Realms will be even bigger for the genre. This is the release that should finally put Dungeons & Dragons on the map as a screen franchise, potentially turning the most popular RPG game in history into a TV juggernaut, too. Why The Forgotten Realms is so hard to adapt for TV. When it was confirmed in February 2025 that Shawn Levy was developing The Forgotten Realms into a Netflix show, the excitement among fantasy fans was palpable. However, Levy later revealed that the development process is slow-going, because it involves a very different type of adaptation from other fantasy publications being brought to the screen. In a November interview with Collider, the producer explained that things are moving forward bit by bit, but we'll all have to be patient at this stage. Levy described the challenge he's facing with The Forgotten Realms as follows. The reason that it's taken so long, and the reason why it is a challenging process is you're not adapting story IP. You're adapting a world, and a lexicon, and a spirit, but story needs to be invented, largely from scratch, and it needs to be invented in a way that feels organic to everything that's great about D&D. On the one hand, it's essential that this Netflix show accurately reflects pre-existing D&D lore and the immersive experience of the original game. On the other, it will be telling stories that have never been told before, rather than directly adapting novels from the extensive Forgotten Realms canon. As a result, the development process constitutes a delicate balancing act between faithful world-building and original storytelling. This is a balance that animated shows like The Mighty Nein and The Legend of Vox Machina, which are adapted from specific gameplaying campaigns within the actual play web series Critical Role, don't have to worry about. What's more, the initial development of the show's premise is just the beginning of the challenge. The Forgotten Realms is still some way from having key writers, producers, directors and actors on board, before discussions about the look and feel of the show, as well as particular plot arcs, need to be had. No matter how long it takes to arrive on screen, though, this is one Dungeons & Dragons release that should definitely be worth the wait. Whenever it drops, The Forgotten Realms could well be the closest Netflix has ever come to Game of Thrones.